Had a good weekend. Well, so far anyway.
Well, good, good, good.
Just
Yeah,
coming in
ready to
here.
kick off this. Ready to kick this 2021 off. Get it rocking and rolling. Want to say Happy New Year to all the listeners out there back in the studio. DJ Anna rocking the Africana tunes this morning. Made in Africa. Good morning, you Anna. How you doing this morning? Well, let me ask you, Anna. Are you as excited as we might be to see 2020 in the rearview mirror? Stop. Go ahead. Man, look at her, man. Listen, I could listen to that all day. You should be doing motivational speeches and putting out podcasts. You have a beautiful spirit about you, Anna, and we really appreciate your hard work here on this show. I know, your job is to keep the technology and the sounds and all that stuff operating and us on target. So we really appreciate you, and we're ready for an exciting 2021 with you, making sure it happens. So, well, Professor, we got 2020 in the rearview mirror. How does it feel though? First, to have it behind us, so to speak.
Well, I mean, I agree with Anna, but I don't know. Other than our tradition of a year gone by, I don't know what's really behind us. I mean, you have to live in reality. So COVID is still here. We still have a tumultuous presidential, outgoing and incoming. So I don't know what's really behind us. I'd like to be upbeat about it, but I'm not sure I can. That's the whole cognitive dissonance. I know what I should be. I know what
Uh-huh.
the new year traditionally, means to us, but I don't know if I'm pessimistic in my old age. It's like 2020 has been such an impactful year, and I saw a commentary says that 2020 has been for people that are living outside of those very small percentage that would have been born or somehow alive for the 1929 market collapse, Great Depression. This
Uh-huh.
has been the worst year on record of anyone alive. Now, people have their personal stories and tragedies that could debunk that, but still, I tend to believe that. In my whole adulthood, realizing what's going on in the world, I don't know any year that's been so impactful as 2020. Just the basic freedoms over extended period of time, losing those or contending to try not to lose those, to me, will make me remember 2020 to my dying bed. Unless 2021 is like hold my beer, I got something for all you guys. Um, I don't know what else can top 2020.
It's interesting you put it that way because from an American perspective, you're right. I think Asia, China, and I think some other countries they had a much harder fight with H1N1. I think it was swine flu and some of those other things. Or you go to Africa with Ebola and some of those outbreaks, and how terrifying, the idea that there's a disease that you can contract that who knows how it'll, turn out. You're right. From an American perspective, the beautiful thing I like about what has happened in America is I've always thought of America as an idea. It's kind of like a marriage. It's really based on ideals and then your ability to live up to those ideals. You know, um, that's the piece to me. And I think America has often stumbled with some of the ideals that were set forth as the foundation for how this country would operate, what it's in writing versus how we function. And that is particularly true for African Americans that uh, we've often lived this, this hypocrisy or dichotomy, what do you want to call it, of there being a set of rules that America's supposed to function by, and then there's a reality of how it actually functions. And this, I think, is the first time you've seen that more widespread, and it's harder to refute. I think the thing that I'm going to say this, and I'm going to write a book on this one day, is the power of capitalism to prevail through all things. And if you look in history, it's done that, like in wars and things of that nature. But as soon as COVID hit, the profiteers turned to look to make a profit. And the most clear way you can see that is by the stock market. That the billionaires and rich people got even more rich. irrespective of what was happening with our rights and business and things of that nature. That to me is probably the most prevailing piece that I think we have to be cautious about. I think it's an undercurrent of what we sometimes hear with these people who push certain socialist ideas, that their feeling is one that profit and money and making, put more money in the bank overrides the environment, what's best for people, health, lives in certain instances. So that to me has been the most revealing thing, having to really, really not be able to explain it away and just accept capitalism is going to make its way into any and everything that happens, including a world pandemic like it is, So, but that gets us to 2021 and the things that we can and cannot expect. One of the things I tell you, I'll say this, you tell me your thoughts. I got to feel it's going to be a hell of a boring year compared to the daily and unpredictability and injection of havoc Donald Trump has given us for the last 4 years. I got to feel it's going to feel, it's going to feel very boring.
Well, I mean, he like anything else, it takes two people to rumble. So Donald Trump getting in and of himself every day finds something to push back and gut punch about. So the Democrats, I think, and you gave a lot of information coming in too. I'd like to go back to. I mean, what is the invisible hand theory? And I think it's Adam Smith, Adam Silver, no, Adam Smith.
Smith.
Yeah, I mean, I think not a. I know that's the American way. So we can argue about it, but in the end, that's what moves us. That's what moves the country. Poor people don't do that. Poor people don't have the resources to leverage. Right, wrong, and different. That is how we're set up. So, but to move forward, I also think the Democrats. I don't think it's going to be a boring 2021. The reason being, I'm hoping, and I'll give you a preview. I'm hoping that the Republicans will put aside this need to go along and drag Joe Biden by the head through the dirt like they did Donald Trump. I do not. I'm one of the ones that is ready to leave the Republican Party if they show any weakness that they've been showing. Because Joe Biden has enough dirt on him, more dirt on him coming in than Donald Trump had. So to think that it's going to be boring, the only way it could be boring if the current Republican Party, those establishments, those long been in office 30 plus years, those guys, if they show any weakness and don't try to bring any special investigations about Hunter Biden, Joe Biden, all that stuff, yeah.
But let me ask you about that, because I remember when I first heard about Iran Contra. Mm-hmm. Back in the 80s, mid 80s, 87 or so. And I was trying to figure out, what really was that about when the investigation happened, right? Mm-hmm. And then it came out that, it was a arms deal to get money to fight communism. I think it was in Nicaragua, Iran Contra.
Yeah. Right. All over north is all I know, yeah.
The whole idea was communism was taking root in South America, and we needed to make sure that did not happen. America did for our own national interests. That's how it starts, and that's kind of why Oliver North was selling missiles out of the basement at the White House. I remember, I think, okay, I could go along with that. I could go along with Reagan feeling the need to figure out a way, though, because he in his mind, he hated communism, and there was fear. We needed to protect America. But I really lost it when we got to the Bill Clinton investigation. I never understood why, from a governing standpoint, it really mattered if he did or did not fool around with Monica Lewinsky. And half the time, of course, Newt Gingrich, of course, it comes out, he had his own little situation going.
Right.
Whatever. But I never understood from a governing why we need this investigation to make America better. What will this do to make America? How will it do our governance? And then you fast forward, that's the next big one, really, because Obama was squeaky clean. There's really nothing, and George Bush, for the most part, there was really nothing nothing to really go after him investigatively about. You had 9/11, but that was less his fault and more just understanding how do we protect America. And I would presume the results of that have been we've been protecting America pretty good since then, but it wasn't attacking him.
Right. Well, his second
But let's get
administration.
hold on, let me get to where I'm at. So now we get to the Donald Trump investigation
Mm-hmm.
and them investigating Donald Trump. And the reason I was not as bothered by that is I was convinced there was more of a connection between Donald Trump and Russia being involved in the election because of the way Donald Trump responded. Because Donald Trump said, Russia, if you have the emails, send them out. Because Donald Trump tended, there were just enough Russia loose connections around Donald Trump, the meeting at Trump Tower, things of that nature that were not made up, they happened. And it was hard to take his word for what happened in those meetings or his people because they've been so kind of clandestine about it. And really, you got some unknown players in that. But I'm trying to figure out when you mentioned investigate Hunter Biden.
Right.
First, it didn't happen while Joe Biden was president or running for office per se. Or is there any allegation that those relationships played a role in his campaign and running for office? Now, there may be, I've not heard anybody even hint to that. What the message is Hunter Biden has some sweetheart gravy train deals out of China, and there's money in the Biden family out of China. That may be the case. He wasn't in office, and I don't know what does that have to do with him coming into office as president. And the reason I mention that is I'm worried that every time we get a president, we're going to have some kind of investigation whose goal is just to bungle up and bottle up the government. And of course, government still goes ahead. Things still get decided. We have people in power who really don't have power because they're like Donald Trump. They're fighting an impeachment when in fact they should be governing. And I would love to hear you say how this investigative thing that you want is going to really make Joe Biden a better president or lead to better governance while he is president.
Well, you said enough. You said a candidate who's never held public office said something on the trail, made a statement. But by the time this candidate, Donald J. Trump, made this statement, we all knew who he was. Donald Trump did not change. And at this point, to continue to say, well, he said something when we know from a candidate Trump to a President Trump, much to a lot of our dismay, he didn't change. So he's always made what we call them dumb statements, like, why would you say something like that? But from 2016, he's been the same guy, right? So now let's come now. And if you were convinced by a candidate who's never held office that because he made just a crazy statement about Russia, he had the emails, how could you not be more convinced by a sitting vice president? That's when Hunter Biden, because if you look at it, Hunter Biden, who by all assessments you can look at, doesn't have the credentials to do half of what he's done. So he's raked in millions of dollars. And if you look at the same thing, again, a sitting vice president, and whether or not he was in office as a vice president, he's been in Congress 47 years. So much of this dirt is when he was in Congress. So if you're not concerned by a person who's been in Congress, who's had a lot of influence, who's built up a lot of cachet as a senator serving in Congress, taking that dirt and those secrets into the Oval Office, again, you look at America as an idea. I don't. Not that I think, but I'm ex-military. I'm the most patriotic black guy you're probably going to find, other than J.C. Watts, maybe. But I don't look at America as just somehow, pie in the sky idea. I mean, you have to put in work. It's accountability. You get out what you put in. I mean, it's kind of a black and white type thing. But just to go back, Joe Biden, and these investigative reports that somehow the Democrats didn't want to talk about, the media suppressed in that leading up to the second debate, Joe Biden was referred to as the big guy. We have testimony. We have Hunter Biden's.
well, let me say this though. Let's presume everything you say about Hunter Biden is true.
Okay.
What does that have to do with governing the country now?
Because big guy is Joe Biden.
So
You
what?
So he's had a hand in this investigation that Hunter Biden's been under federal investigation for almost 2 years. The guy
but hold on for a minute. Hold on for a minute. Joe Biden is private citizen Joe Biden, and that's his son engaged in private business.
That got to that position on Joe Biden's clout.
Okay, now, you so want to assume that's true though. What does that have to do? If you're saying to me the concern is not that they made a boatload of money, because everybody in Congress makes money and their family makes money off being in Congress. That's just capitalism making a profit out of everything. What does that have to do with him governing the country? Are you saying it puts us at risk because he may be more favorable to China? There may be policies that he may be enact to protect that wealth.
Okay, exactly. Yes, exactly. Yes, and that's what the whole thing is about. Because what we know now, Eric Swalwell, what we know now is there have been so many compromises. So what we know about China, they wanted to talk about Russia, but China's always been one of the ones. If you pull any hacking reports of security, China's footprint is there just as much as Russia and other countries.
All right. So you're concerned that Joe Biden might be more favorable to China and America at risk. He may not be as hard as we need to be in dealing with China, and that's why we need to determine this investigation.
Well, yeah, but not he might. He is. He's already made those statements. He said China's not the enemy. Still refusing to hold China accountable for this virus that we're contending with. To talk about any business deals and not hold China responsible for what they allow. Even the WHO organization, World Health Organization, has come out against China, which they should have already done. But like President the China virus. So like Trump would always say, because he's the only one that's willing to say it. So why hasn't Joe Biden at least changed his narrative to say, okay, well, yeah, I don't have a problem with China, but yeah, we need to hold China responsible. He's not going to say that. And this whole thing about...
Got it. So I'm poking at this because I'm trying to put it in terms of not where it's just because he's in office, we need an investigation, and then the next guy comes in, and because he's in office, we need an investigation. Do you have any concerns though? Because it was clear to me the Democrats did an excellent job of distracting Donald Trump by using the investigative pieces. They attacked his personal weaknesses and things of that nature. Are you concerned though that if you get this investigation you're talking about, it may make American government less effective and functional?
No, see, I'm not concerned with that at all. I don't care if they blow the whole government system up. And here's why. Because what we talk about capitalism, because of what we know, the founding principles of America, most people, Congress has the lowest rating of any institution.
Yeah, but that's just popularity. I tell fathers in the household, listen, if you're not the least popular person in your house, then you're not running your house, Dad. So popularity to me has no bearing on effectiveness and what's beneficial or what's good.
Well,
and the fact that they're not popular, that can be connected to media reports and some of that kind of stuff.
That's not the case here. I mean, and we know, people have always said, and what bothers me during election year, these phrases, oh, I'm going to reach across the aisle, Washington bureaucracy, the swamp is the latest thing how they phrase it. But the layperson, the average American, and I consider myself to be one, those phrases automatically let me know, okay, this is an establishment person. I mean, don't talk to me about reaching across the aisle, because I don't talk like that in everyday work. So if you're telling me, I'm going to reach across the aisle, to who? Both of you guys are in bed together. So what are you really doing? Just hugging each other closer? Because now to your point, you would like to say, I'm not surprised. You're on the left. They did an excellent job of distracting the president with these investigations. But you also contend, well, why would we want to drag Biden into somehow, what's that going to do for the government? But you didn't care what that did for Trump as the duly elected president for 4 years, because you framed it as an excellent job. So I have no problem with Republicans dragging Joe Biden through the mud. And I hope that they do, because this whole unity thing is a bunch of hogwash. You know, now I'm in office. Hey, let's just get along. But you drug the guy before you for 4 years, but now you don't want that same kind of play. No, we're going to give you guys the same play, and I
I
hope they start.
I understand the tit for tat. I get that, and you got to do what you can do when you don't have power to whatever it may be. I mean, kids, they hold food in their mouth to keep from eating. I don't know. You do what you got to do with whatever power you think you can get. You use that power, and I understand that. I'm just thinking that if you back up a step or two, I'm just thinking, how do we get out of this cycle? I see how we got in it.
Mm-hmm.
How do we get out of it though? And I would like a little more meat on the bone. I would like, if there was some inclination where it was clearer. I have no issue with family members making money off elected people and government. I just understand that's going to happen. You don't control people in your family. Everybody has elements in their family, and people are going to be opportunists. And I don't think anybody in Congress wants that spotlight on themselves, because they're all got people that are slow. You have a couple people in Republican parties, selling stocks and all kind of stuff. And these folks that Donald Trump pardoned, who were, criminalized for their activities, you're going to have that kind of stuff. I just worry about the governance of the country, figuring out how do we govern better. You mentioned the popularity of Congress. The president, Donald Trump, leaves office as I think the least popular president we've had in a long time. And I don't know how as a country we're better off. I like the idea of somebody talking unity versus somebody saying from the highest office, just screw whoever else is out there. So, but anyway, with that being said, though, I'm trying to make sense out of what's been happening with Donald Trump in this last month or so since the election. I'm not sure. It almost seems to me he's, of course, he's doing a loyalty test among all Republicans. Right. Who's with me, who's not. But is his plan to take those people off and then monetize that with his own, news station, or really run in 2024? Is it just normal Trump making power plays? Because I'm just trying to figure out, what is he doing?
Well, I think it's normal Trump. It's vintage Trump, and no one understands Trump. I mean, people say, well, Trump should do this, Trump should do that. Well, Trump would not be president if he did what most advisors told him to do. He just wouldn't be president. If he took advice from everyone who's giving him advice from 2016, he wouldn't be president.
No. You're confusing two things. I think Trump has always gotten really good advice about what's good for the country.
Mm-hmm.
But Trump does what's good for Trump.
Okay.
And in this case, I'm trying to just understand, what is Trump doing for Trump right now? Is he really setting up this 2024? Is he trying to set up to be the foil in case those two senators win in Georgia? He has influence over senators, and now he can influence McConnell. You want to be the power player of the future.
Well, what is he? I don't think you like the answer. The answer is Trump is Trump. What do you mean? What is he trying to do? Trump is doing what he's done. But let me make this point. Let me carry it forward. Trump had 74 million. I don't think they're questioning the people that voted for Trump. We're questioning the people that voted for Biden. We're not.
Yeah, but one more thing. Let me say this real quick. But the total Republican vote was closer to 78 million. Mm-hmm. So there were about 5 million more people who didn't vote for Trump, but voted for other Republicans.
Okay.
And that's a little thing that you need to drill. There are more Republicans down ticket that won when Trump lost, that got more votes. Georgia's a good example. You had more Republicans vote for other Republicans, not Trump. And I'm trying to just read the tea leaves here, is where is his power base? No. And then what he's trying to do with it.
Well, I mean, if your narrative is your narrative, that's why you're going to believe it. And let's use Georgia. Georgia was a great state. And you're right, more politicians won Republican, and the red state did not elect the president. The red state did not elect the president, and the boring Joe Biden, 78-year-old Joe Biden, who can't fill a football stadium, can't fill all the seats in the bleachers on a football stadium. You're trying to tell me that Georgia is your example of how more people voted for, and that's the state in question. And that's our problem, because to say that is to completely overlook the amount of fraud. We agree fraud takes place, but ballot harvesting, paper vote, using this whole confined indefinitely for COVID, mail-in ballot, all that stuff. It's never happened to this degree, and especially using Georgia, a red state, as an example. So you're making our point. That's our point. You can't tell us this guy who pulled in more votes than any sitting president versus a guy who never won a primary until 2020, who's been in office 47 years, never won a primary. In his third attempt, he didn't get the vote until James Clyburn. So, I mean, you guys are giving us something that's just hard to believe, but you want to believe it because.
Okay, so let me say this, though. You're right about that. But the governor of Georgia has convinced me otherwise.
Of course.
The Secretary of State.
Because your guy won.
But no. But I'm just saying, if the governor is a Trump guy, the Secretary of State, now I think they're Americans first, and they adhere to the ideals of America. And that is, if you run the campaign and you lose, I don't just say because the numbers didn't come out the way I wanted it to be, it's something else. But if they weren't the ones saying that in a number of Republican states, if you didn't, you probably would get a lot more leverage on this if it wasn't Georgia and some other Republican states. Now, if you look at the demographics of America, when people say, well, people hate New York and they're leaving New York, anybody ever thought to look where those people are landing and ending up that leave New York and Georgia? Georgia's population is exploding because of the cost of living. Florida's cost of living is skyrocketing. A lot more people are retiring to the Carolinas and to Georgia and Texas. Texas getting a lot of California and West Coast crowd coming down there. But
red states. So go ahead. Leave them blue states.
Democrats. So and even in Florida, everybody just presumed Florida. Florida is this pink, red, more. I think Florida's almost solid red now. I really do, based on the elections, your legislature, some of the re-gerrymandering they've done, that kind of stuff, which is, good of the American democratic principles at work, setting up the favorable election districts for certain people.
Not checking IDs. Yeah.
Right. But now that's a whole nother issue, though, because that's harkening me back to voter suppression that we have great history with in America. But again, it speaks to your commitment to the ideal of democracy, hearing from the people, not hearing from the people in the method and mechanism I want to hear, but really, do we want to hear from the people? That's what voting is about. But I still don't understand. And if I was a Republican, just understanding, okay, what 2021 and 22 is going to look like, understanding Trump, because he's asking for the governor to resign in Georgia.
He should.
I don't know why. I mean, he's done
Secretary of State.
Secretary of State, and as we got to go to break in another minute. I'm just figuring out how these activities strengthen. It's almost like he's sabotaging this runoff in Georgia.
You see, that's a narrative that Democrats want us to. Donald Trump is going to be the most popular Republican president on record. It's going to take a lot of 2021 and 2022s to get that off the stage. And you guys hate that. But he's going to be the most popular president. You guys might call him infamous, but...
Whoa. Let me make sure I'm going to break on this real quick. He's going to be the most popular president?
Yeah. He's going to be
you mean ex-president?
Yeah.
You mean among Republicans?
Take his vote. No other president has done what he's done as far as voting, and you're trying to make us think because.
What do you mean? Whoa! What do you mean by vote? You mean getting votes? You mean the total votes?
Well, I'm talking about from one term to the next.
78
he increased his votes more than Barack Obama and still lost, and we're not going to believe that. Not
because you know why? Because the more people let's put a pin in that, and I'll say Biden has gotten the most votes for anybody running for president.
Biden hadn't gotten jack. Biden cheated. No one believes that but Democrats.
Listen. All right, let's go to break real quick. We're going to take a break here, run some commercials, get reset up on the backside of this thing. We got a lot of stuff to talk about.
I didn't believe in that.
Going on. So you're listening to In Touch News Radio, reality radio where everybody can be a star. We will be right back after this quick break.
All you you sports fans. Tune in every Monday morning to listen to Mic'd Up Mondays with Michael Clayton. You don't want to miss this.
On In Touch Radio.
Hello, Kubo. What have you got planned for today?
Come on, this way.
Adventure can be found anywhere, but the best place to start is in the forest.
It's the most powerful magic there is.
Head outside to discover incredible animals.
Wow.
And beautiful plants that come together to create an unforgettable adventure. So grab your loved ones and explore a world of possibilities. Visit discovertheforest.org to find the closest forest or park to you. Brought to you by the Ad Council and the U.S. Forest Service.
My teacher said that we should have a plan in case of an emergency. Do we have one?
First thing I'm gonna do is grab a flashlight with dead batteries.
I'm going to start randomly throwing clothes in the bag. You two will be hiding in the closet and Dad won't be able to find you.
And that's when we both start crying.
Uncontrollably. Can you pass the cutlets?
Winging it is not an emergency plan. Make sure your kids know what to do during an emergency, who to call, where to meet, what to pack. Search Ready Kids at nyc.gov or call 311. Brought to you by the New York City Office of Emergency Management and the Ad Council.
We're playing your favorite old school. Today's R&B. With a smooth touch of jazz. You're listening to In Touch Radio.
All right, we're back live at In Touch Leads Radio, reality radio where everybody can be a star. I want to thank all the listeners out there. And of course, I want to thank my co-host, Professor Tony Seabrook, as we kick off this exciting 2021. I think it's time we lobby the station, Professor, for a second hour because, I mean, we hadn't even got off topic 1.5, and we're at the midway break. One of the things that makes our show exciting, of course, is when callers call in. We don't want you to think that, listen, we're just here to hear ourselves talk. We hear that all day long when we're by ourselves. We talk and think and whatnot. But so it's important to us that we hear from you. So if you're listening, here's how you get involved with the show. All right. First, you can call us on our Zoom phone line. And here's the ID. It's 834, I'm sorry, 834-088-74026. The ID number is 834-088-74026. You may be asked for a passcode, and that passcode number is 929-205-6099. That's 929-205-6099. Now, if you're old school, you're stuck in the 70s, and you want to go old school, you can use regular telephone. How about that? That number is 813-444-9588. You'll go right into the studio, and they'll patch you right onto the show. 813-444-9588. Go get your VHS programs, and then you can type in that number from back in what you used to do in the 70s and get on the show. But for those people that are hip and technology savvy, we're running this show through Zoom, and it really has been an exciting format for it so far. Well, Professor, I mean, listen, there's so much out there. Somebody sent me a text message. Oh, one more thing. For those of you who don't want to call in the show, it's fine to keep sending me your grumpy emails. I don't mind. You know, that's fine as well if you don't want to participate. I read the grumpy, even if I don't ever respond to you, know that I got your email, and, you know, it is what it is. But Professor, somebody sent me a message and said, listen, I got $600 in my checking account. People are already receiving their stimulus checks. I mean, and you're muted, Professor, by the way. I was just shocked to see how quickly they start getting, because my thought was that the discussion's still going on whether or not.
Mine too. When I found out, I was like, really? I thought they had another round of discussion.
But here's my thought to you is, how did Donald Trump's negotiators miss so badly on that number? Or do you think it was his intent all along to wait till they thought they had a deal in place and then throw a monkey wrench in and say, hey, I'd like to see $2,000 thrown into this?
I don't think it was his intent. As a matter of fact, if you remember, it's about Donald Trump asked for a standalone bill.
$1,200. But he wanted in that bill though. He only wanted $1,200.
It's more than $600. Doesn't matter.
Yeah, but if he come back and said, like I said before, guys, I want 1,200, I would agree with you. The fact that he asked for a new number, he just made it's like he was riding in the limo and said 2,000.
But here's the thing: it doesn't matter what the other number is. What he wanted, and when he asked for, we have a caller coming in.
Okay.
All right, I'm gonna bring him in. Hey, caller, who do we have? Julia.
I think she's still connected. Give her a second here. Let's see. All right.
Okay, she's muted now. Julia, you can unmute your phone, or I can unmute you. She may be getting ready, but
well, go ahead and unmute her, mute her, Professor. Right? Okay, there she is. She's live now.
So I am unmuted.
Hey,
and,
Happy New Year, Julia. How you doing?
Happy New Year to you guys. I'm enjoying the show today.
Good.
What good. I heard you talking about the $600. I had other comments before, but I cut you off somehow. But I wanted to say I don't think there was any confusion about the $600. I think all parties agreed they should at least get the light bill money for $600 about grocery. I think the other part of it was the $2,000 that Trump threw in there, knowing he doesn't want, sorry, Professor, to give any poor people or middle class people any $2,000. And who believes that? I mean, he disrupted my pay. I'm a retired federal employee. Mm-hmm. I didn't get my check, and I won't get it until Monday. And with the $600,
the bill was signed late, because the bill got signed late.
Exactly. And he just pushed more things down the line. So for the most part, I think he really does not want to give people $2,000. Why would he?
Then why did he make that pitch, and why has he kept pushing it so hard? Why do you think that was the case, Julia?
I think he is actually trying to run this election in Georgia. I could be wrong, of course, but I think he finally found out that some of the Republicans helped to get him out, and they stayed in. I mean, on the ballot, Trump was voted out, and then others stayed in. And it finally maybe dawned on Trump, those Republicans, even though they were sticking with me in the public, they actually wanted me out. And
really,
I think so. Why would they?
Have you been listening to the professor? Because that's what he's been saying.
Well, the professor is like somewhere in Mars, or I just wish he'd come back to Earth. And the things with Hunter Biden, my God, can you imagine? We don't have to imagine. We know all the things Trump's kids have done. Not all of them, but so much stuff. Hunter is not in the office. He never ran for president. That's his father. Find out. And how does Biden have so many things? He's done so many more things than Trump. Really, Professor?
Yeah, he's the one that started in the 70s. Oh, his segregationist policies. Oh, we're going to start there. You're going to try. Are you going to try to start when he's under?
Oh boy. Okay, Jude.
No, I'm talking about more illegal stuff, like maybe ties to the mafia.
Who?
Or
all this is okay. No one has even said that, but okay, I'll let you have.
Nobody has suggested that or thought.
No one's proven that. I mean, because we said Biden has the same thing.
Ties to the mob.
But, right. So let me ask you, Julia. If I'm hearing you say it, Julia, you're saying, listen, really, what the kids did, Trump's kids and Biden's kids, what does it have to do with running the country and governing? Is that what I'm hearing you say?
Biden's kids were doing these things in the White House. I mean, they were trying to sell jewelry and makeup and lotion and shoes.
Ivanka.
Getting plastic surgery done on our taxpayers' money.
Oh, goodness gracious.
Or rehab for Don Jr.
On and on. Well, so what you're saying?
I really think Trump. How can you say the election is rigged? However, you're going to go to Georgia and say, "Now y'all go out and vote. Y'all know it's rigged." So people don't know who to believe. But I'll let you go. And it was nice to vent.
Thank you.
Appreciate
that
very
Professor.
Much. Well, let me ask you, Julia, one question real quick. You mentioned the $600 light bill. you must live in a really big government-funded house somewhere. If your electric bill is, you got to sit on an electric bill.
It probably would. I don't know. I think ours could be more. I don't know. I'm just saying. Even though I don't meet, even though I don't meet that requirement, I think people who don't meet it, they've still gone through things financially during this quarantine and the virus. All right, don't give us as much, but give us some.
Got it. All right, Julia. Well, thank you so much for calling. We appreciate you very much. We appreciate you listening. Clearly, she is a long-time listening professor. Tuning in. She's got.
I just couldn't take the professor today with the. And I can take you. I'm sorry, Professor. However, you know, you just stirred something in my soul with this.
I know. You see how my wife feels. I mean, I talk to her. I mean, I think it's a love-hate relationship. It's almost like a Florida household sometimes.
So she's a Democrat.
Well, thank you for calling. We really appreciate you. We really appreciate you listening. Keep listening in the future. All right. Thank you very much.
Absolutely.
All right. So, Professor, so we got Julia there. You heard her comments.
Yeah.
Threw a little bit in there. I mean, you know, she went back to that Hunter Biden, the children kind of thing. I think that's going to resonate. I mean, a lot of people are scratching their head saying that, gosh, is this what we're going to look forward to every election? The other side trying to figure out ways to investigate. Because I was not, if you recall, I was not a fan of impeachment. If you remember, you know, once we got to the investigation piece and they had no real meat that was clear, you know, we didn't have there was no smoking gun. I thought the impeachment was pandering to a populist theory, kind of like defund police. It's pandering to a theory that in reality is not really good. And I just don't like the idea of just having another investigation to investigate. But you heard what Julia was saying, though. She was saying that as she sits there on her federal pension and retirement benefits, she's upset that money's not coming because of Trump's actions, though. I just don't understand his strategy with all of these last minute votes and stuff.
It still goes back, and I'm going to paint a lot of people. My wife, she knows all of my favorite sayings, but it goes back to that thing I said before. For those who believe, no proof is necessary. But for those who don't believe, no proof is enough. So if you believe Trump is a crook, nothing is going to change that. If you believe his family just, crazy, just spending money, trying to have free surgeries on the government pension, forget that they're rich already. But if you believe that, nothing's going to sway that point. Now, but to your point, what I'm always floored by, that's the best term, is when Democrats such as you say, well, I wasn't a fan of impeachment. But does it really matter if you were a fan of not? Your party carried it through, and they were trying to bring down a sitting president who was duly elected. So regardless if you thought it was a good idea, your party did it, and then they tried another investigation, and then they get their guy in with all this cheating. So let me correct it. Biden didn't cheat. Biden benefited from the cheat. I think the state actors is what I'm sure the state actors is what got this done for Biden. He just benefited from it. But when your party tries to bring a sitting president down on baseless claims, I mean, yeah, even you said, well, he said something that made me think there was something there. There was no meat on that bone. And then you guys get in office, hey, let's just reset and let's just unify. No, you do that the next time because we're coming for you. You and Hunter, we're coming straight for the whole.
Okay, let me back up though. But here's the real big issue is, and I think this is the piece I don't understand. A Republican-led Senate did these investigations. I know what they did in the House. The Attorney General, Jeff Sessions, is the one that resulted in having this thing investigated. He recused himself. I don't know how you blame Democrats for that investigation. I blame them for the impeachment. And like I said before, but I just got a message from someone on this point here. And they say, listen, you got to respect Donald Trump's ability to be such a charismatic personality. And he is going to, looks like this whole $2,000 thing is about, one, asserting his control of the Republican Party and remaking it his image. And are you comfortable if that is the road that Donald Trump goes down with the Republican Party?
I don't think the $2,000. I still go back to the standalone bill. So those people who are talking about the $2,000, still you had to go when he called for a standalone bill. The Democrats didn't want to do it. Nancy Pelosi's been on record saying, "Well, I didn't want to do it because I didn't want to do it before the election." So to talk about this $2,000 now, it's to actually act like you didn't hear.
Here's why. I'm gonna tell you why. They were over on the Capitol. You had Senate representatives, Republican, Democrat. You had House representatives, Republican, Democrat, and you had Mnuchin's got right there for Trump. And he's got Trump on the phone, and they say, "Hey guys, can everybody live with 600?" And in theory, Mnuchin jumps on the phone with Trump. 600 is going to be the number, boss. What do? We're good with that. Send it up. But then when they vote and send it up, he jumps and says 2,000. And Mnuchin's like, "Well, that's not what I understood. We agreed to." That's what I'm trying to say. That's really the confusing piece is because my thought would be when they said, "Hey, can we do 600?" The message back then would have been, "No, guy, that number's got to be 2,000." Not once the number is set at 600 and his guy helps negotiate that number with his authority, that he then would throw everybody under the bus.
Well, with that same rationale, talk about why didn't they go for the 1,200 that he wanted months ago? See, before we got here, months ago. So why don't you talk about that with the same passion and rationale? Trump wanted twice as much months ago. And I know you're not going to say he's clairvoyant. He knew we would be here. You don't give him that much credit. He's a buffoon, right? So
no. I'm just saying. I'm just thinking. He participated in theory in the negotiations, and once the deal was set, he then threw this monkey wrench in.
You're still talking about this deal,
the 600, yes, because he could. And what I'm saying though is, it's kind of like, you're at the dealership negotiating to buy a car.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody says, "Okay, we agree to pay $10,000 for this car." We're like, "Great." And when the finance manager comes out, you say, "Nah, I only want to pay 8." You go, "Well, wait a minute. The other guy just said you just told him 10." That's what I'm trying to figure out. And
which is good negotiation, right? That's what you do when you go to buy a car, right? You get everybody there.
Watch me now. Until you say, "I agree to whatever it is," and Mnuchin on his behalf agreed to the 6. And that wasn't like for one day. They did a whole process of voting in both houses, Senate votes, and then Trump comes out and goes, "How dare y'all send me this thing?" Okay, so I got somebody sent me another question. I guess they're fearful of calling in and feeling your wrath, Professor, after you destroyed Julia the way that you just did.
No.
But you crushed the poor thing. I mean, luckily she, hopefully there's federal benefit. She can get counseling after what you just did to her. But let me ask. So somebody just sent me a message, said, "Listen, okay, the professor keeps mentioning all this fraud. First, Trump put a fraud commission in place, right?
Mm.
And that commission, he actually disbanded it without any findings. So that's one question. But if there was so much fraud, why didn't more Republicans lose down ballot?
I mean, it's like you guys don't know. If you can't figure out how people just lie and just say stuff to your face, let's just take politics out of it. Who's ever been in a situation where you agreed on something, everybody's in agreement, and you walk out and you know they're lying, they don't like you, but they say that in your face? Who's ever been, because I have, who's ever been in a meeting who people knew they were wrong, and they know if they own up to it, they're going to go down. So they'll carry that lie to their grave. Now put politics back in it. Trump has been up against this thing, and we talked about it. Those never Trumpers, once he started getting people out like Jeff Flake and people start retiring, those career politicians, who's their job? They can't do anything else. They just went underground. And I always say Trump knows he's a man on the island. He doesn't trust anybody but his family. And he don't halfway trust them. I mean, I think he trusts Ivanka more than anybody else, but he doesn't trust anybody. So when we talk about swamp, of course they're in it together. How can there be systematic racism without systematic fraud, without systematic the way we do things? I mean, how can you just have systematic race? Everybody can buy into systematic racism, but they can't buy into government politics. Turn your head. We know this is wrong. we'll just turn our heads to this and that. And this is, it doesn't bother me at all. I just think it's comical because if Republicans are in this situation, if Joe Biden had lost or Obama had lost his second term, you guys, I'm telling you, there'd be probably not many stores able to open. Had we pulled this on Obama in his second term, we wouldn't have to do much. There'd be nothing to stop you guys, BLM and Tifa, from tearing the place down. Let's remember, they didn't board up businesses with this with this election for if Trump lost. Because that's not what Republicans do. Even the Proud Boys, they ain't tearing nothing down.
So say before me, right, but those are different segments though. I mean, individuals decide whether they board up. I mean, that wasn't the government boarding up a post office.
Right.
Those are businesses just kind of making individual and paying the decisions in the moment and what. But let me go back to what you're saying though, because I'm trying to be rational with how I connect the fraud. I don't doubt, Professor, in elections everywhere in this country, because you have people doing them, running them, you have people doing mischievous things individually. You know, whatever it may be. Maybe, grandma died a week before the election and we have a mail-in ballot. So we're gonna mail grandma's ballot back for her. I don't doubt that. Or somebody at the house, Uncle Rufus can't get to the polling place. So I'm gonna take Uncle Rufus's ID and go down here and vote for him. I don't doubt you have those things happening. The question is it significant enough such that it would change the election? That's one. And how the down ballot and how it worked, the person, how the voting. But I think those are, I don't think anybody's saying there's not fraud of some level, of some nature, things happen and miscounts, whatever it may be. The issue really is, was it to the level, is it, like you said, systematic or coordinated and, everybody's in this thing together. Is it that, or is it just, human error? Somebody made a mistake or, are those really the things that are driving?
No, it's not a mistake. You don't lose 5 swing states and a mistake and just human error. No. And if you believe that's just trying to be naive and act like, well, I don't know how they could have done that. I mean, who believes that? If your guy lost 5 swing states, you wouldn't take my thing. No, man, that was just, I did the same thing. Man, that was somebody took Uncle Rufus' ID down. He only did it 2 times. I mean, you guys,
you are worried. All right, listen, we only got a few minutes left. We gotta talk about what's going on in Georgia.
Okay.
My man Perdue, hopefully he's watching us this morning on In Touch News because he's quarantined. He can't get out of the campaign. You got Biden hitting town. You got Michelle Obama doing robocalls. You got allegedly Klansmen campaigning with people. Handicap what's going to happen in Georgia. The record turnout, more turnout than in the general election, in this runoff election. What are your thoughts and want to handicap what's going to happen down there?
I still think if we don't get both, we'll split the deck and get one or the other. We're going to carry the Senate. So only Democrats are trying to run this narrative that it's not going to happen. But here's the thing. Here's why it's true. Why are you sending Michelle Obama down there? Well, not even that. Why is she doing robocall? Why are you guys
Michelle Obama?
Why is Michelle Obama doing robocalls in Georgia? Why?
She's the most trusted voice. And a lot of times you look to see who's on deck, who's participating, who's helping out. And Michelle's got a lot of
in a Senate runoff. Why is Michelle Obama the chosen one? I mean, stop playing like we don't know why. But you guys are scared that the numbers won't really favor you guys, that true red state is going to be red. Like you said, the only one that went blue was for the office of the president. By your rationale, we're going to carry it.
Well, it would have gone blue for Stacey Abrams if 1.5 million people had been scrubbed from the polls like they used to do back in the 60s and 50s. With voter suppression of African Americans.
That's just a very convenient argument. Oh, they're going to do what they did back in the 50s. Well,
they're doing it. No, they are doing it. When I the whole issue about signatures and things of that nature, that's reminiscent of what they would do to literacy tests and grandfather clauses and all this kind of foolishness of changing the rules and moving the voting locations.
But even to equate a signature test to a literacy test. Signature verification to a literacy test shows that you're just kind of being disingenuous.
Now, it's what they.
That's more than illiteracy.
it's just what they have available to use in the space in the moment right now because they don't have those things in other situations. But we'll leave that where because we leave it. But you're saying they're going to split.
No. Worst case scenario, we're going to split and still take one. We only need one.
I think both seats are going to go Democrat, and Republicans next door in Alabama, Mississippi, and all those other Sun Belt states will be shaking in their boots because now the Democrats have proved that they can win in the South.
No, they proved they know how to cheat. They proved that they know how to do ballot stuffing, ballot harvesting, paper vote, double voting, and they know how to do it in one setting. That's all they prove. We are not scared by that whatsoever.
Well, I'm very happy to see. I'm happy to see, Professor, you are in rare form starting off 2021. I know we got to get out of here. Your closing comment for today's show.
Today's show is January 5th. No, January 6th is going to be telling. And I think that's the day we learn more about the U.S. Constitution and what it means for the American people. On January 6th, when the Congress convenes for the electoral a vote, I think that's when, forget the runoff. January 6th is what's going to show the true soldiers and really what's going to tell what's going to happen with the Republican Party. Because I, for one, will leave.
I agree with you. I think the Civil War, the Civil Rights Movement, Vietnam, Iraq, and how we treat our mentally ill do the same things continually in America's history. I'm hoping America's character can meet that moment, Professor. Want to thank all of our listeners for listening in today, kicking off 2021. I didn't even get halfway down my sheet, Professor. I'm going to try to roll some of this stuff over, but I got a feeling Trump's going to give me so much more material next week. Want to thank Julia for calling in. And you people that keep sending me these texts and emails, pick up the phone. Come on and get some of this.
I've been watching Facebook. Nothing.
Hey, Anna, we appreciate you back in the studio. You've been listening to In Touch News Radio, reality radio, where everybody can be a star. We'll see you back here next week. Take care, everybody.